if you're there.
Hopefully.
Hopefully you're there. If not, they're just gonna have to listen to your voice.
That's fine. I'll try and make a nice like fucking pose off the start here if it freezes.
No, you're moving. You're moving. I don't
Nice,
know
let's
how long. I don't know
go.
how long we have you for, but
Hey, at least I'm here.
so let's just get some people in here again.
Oh, Mike, no jersey today, eh? Kind of a rookie mistake.
Jerseys are just sitting on the walls right now, collecting dust.
Still have to put mine up on my back wall here, but rocking the Marner tonight, of course.
I love it. All right, what do we have? Okay, it's gonna be a fun one tonight.
I'm excited. These are a lot of good matchups, like a lot of rivalries and stuff. So
Yeah.
and just hockey's back in general, right? So
All right, let's try and get a couple more people. We'll get her going at like 110. I wonder if there's any confirmation on Jake Virtanen playing on that Canucks first line.
I'm scrolling through my Twitter briefly right now.
Yeah, let
just
me
to
know.
see.
Let me know if you see any updates on that. Because I saw Höglander was PP1, so that's interesting.
A tweet that you put out 20 minutes ago. I think, man, I would probably give it to Stone, the captaincy for Vegas.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
that's just the guy that like jumps out to me.
Yeah, they don't have any like long tenured guys because they're a new team. Maybe they'll give it to Fleury.
Imagine, dude.
The goalie C. I think Luongo
Like
had
what
the
they
goalie
do
C.
with. Yeah, he did. They didn't allow to put him on his jersey though, so he like put it on his helmet. It was weird.
Andy, what's going on? Welcome. How's things? Go Avs. I don't got my
Go
Avs jersey
Avs.
on right now, but we're definitely going to be running through them today. They're going to be pretty solid tonight. I think we'll wait till 110, so a couple more minutes here. Get some more people, and then we'll start going. We'll start talking. Jumbo Joe on the first line. I don't know if I like that tonight. Brings down
And
the
I
salary
was-
for once, though.
It does. I'd probably give him like, I don't know. We'll see how long Keefe runs with it, but I don't see him being able to keep up with Matthew and Marner's pace. You know.
What's up, Jordan?
Hey Jordan, what's going on, bud?
What game you most excited for today? It has to be Leafs Canadiens. Can't go wrong with that. But then the late night playoff matchup with the Avalanche and Blues.
I'm excited for Oilers Canucks actually.
Yeah.
I think hopefully that'll be a high scoring game.
High scoring game, yeah.
And then just watching McDavid Draisaitl again is going to be fun.
Simmons and Jumbo Joe on the top power play. Is that confirmed? Is Simmons actually there? No.
I haven't. There's no way.
Jumbo's probably on the top power play. What's up, Chris? Stream sniper. Leafs only had a 53% chance.
What?
Tonight.
It is.
Simmons-
Left wing lock has Joe Thornton, Matthews, Marner, Simmons, and Riley.
Wow, that's crazy.
And then the second power play is Spezza, Tavares, Nylander, Hyman, Brody.
Wow.
So they're splitting the top power play.
JT and Nylander PP2. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of teams. I covered it in my stream last night. A lot of teams are evening out the lines now, and you're seeing it more with like Calgary is one really good example that all their lines are completely evened out now. I think they dropped Lindholm to the second line center from first line wing. Like the Rangers too, they're pretty evened out. I think Carolina as well. Trocheck's now on the third line. They moved Nichas up to the second. Wow. Yeah, Avs are super evened out. Landeskog on the second line. Good point. How dangerous could Jumbo and Simmons be? Not as dangerous
Well,
as Willie and JT.
that's true. And if anything, like that just gives me a little bit more, like that bumps Toronto 1 for me over Toronto 2,
Yeah,
just because
do you have
if
power play
Joe's
correlation?
on, all three of them have power play correlation.
That's
And then
good.
if you throw Riley in there, I think that's just edging out over Toronto too,
Yeah.
because VC's not on power play at all. So
All right, so 110, we'll get started. What's up, everyone? So this is our first stream. We're just gonna run through our DraftKings picks for today. The slate closes at 5:30. So we just a quick reminder before we start. We have Flyers and Penguins second here. We'll run through them first because they are the first game of the slate. We just kind of messed up in our spreadsheets. But yeah, we'll get started. So the Flyers look really good this year. They're super deep. So the one thing that scares me with them tonight, especially playing them in DraftKings, is I'm not sure how the minutes are going to be spread. Because you see JVR and Voracek on the third line. So I do think the third line is going to get more minutes and kind of take away from the top line and the second line. But if you were to go anywhere, I would probably take Flyers 1. Lindblom on the first line, 2,700, super cheap. And then I would probably go to the third line. Again, they're just a cheap filler stack. JVR has high shot upside. I mean, I'm not sure how long Patrick's 2,900 price tag is going to stay there for. So I'm not going to have too much of the second line. I think the Hayes line's going to be matched against Crosby for majority of the game, and that's a pretty tough matchup for him. For the defense side, I mean, you can correlate Provorov with the Flyers lines because he is going to be that top D guy for the whole game. But other than Provorov, I would probably stay away from Sanheim and definitely stay away from Gostisbehere. I know we do have a big projection for him here, but I would probably stay away from him. Carter Hart's going to be one of the best goalies tonight. 61% chance of winning over the Penguins, which it seems pretty high, but it's kind of hard to get away from that Flyers depth. So I think Hart's a solid play. I think you should put him in your lineups with your Flyers players. And I mean, he gives you a good chance at winning. And I think Pittsburgh does shoot a lot, so it'd only benefit him there. What do you think?
yeah, like you said, the Flyers line 1 and 3, you're definitely going to see that Kevin Hayes matchup against probably like Crosby or Malkin's line, and then Couturier will get. I'm assuming they'll match Couturier against Crosby's line, which we know just from previous experience that you don't ever want to bet against Couturier in a shutdown role. So I really like Flyers 3. I think their price is really good. The 2/3 of that line is under 3,500. Like you said, JVR, Voracek, they like to shoot the puck. Nolan Patrick, I think, is going to be at 2,900. I think he has a lot of upside. And the thing I like most about Philly 3 is just the power play correlation. They're all playing second line power play. And then if you want to throw Provorov into that mix, he's probably going to be a little bit more underowned than most of the top end D. But if you're going for Flyers, I like you said, line 1 and 2, or line 1 and 3, excuse me.
Yep. Yeah, I think Provorov's
also a great pick. I just feel like Penguins are going to shoot the puck a lot. And at 7,800, I think that's a pretty good price for them, considering, like you said, how deep the Flyers are.
Yeah, goalies are pretty thin today too. If you guys are making some lineups today, I'm sure you've had trouble deciding on which goalie to take. So just some final notes with the Flyers. I think you're fine going Provorov at 4,900. He plays a ton of minutes, over 25 a night. So I think the one thing you should be looking for when you make your lineups is to ensure that the D you're taking are playing a lot of minutes, and Provorov will give you that. So let's hop over to the Penguins. So the first line's solid. I'm not sure how high I'm going to be on Evan Rodriguez tonight, but if you're taking Crosby and Gensel, you should be taking Rodriguez. I don't think the Penguins, they don't really shuffle their lines too much. From what I've known, they're pretty good for keeping the lines all the same. So I would probably go Penguins 1 or 2. I wouldn't even take a look at the third line. Line 2 has power play correlation. I would probably take the Malkin line over the Gensel line just because I think Zucker and Rust are more competent players than, having Evan Rodriguez on your line. But the one thing you're going to look out for is I think the Penguins are going to be low ownership tonight just because of their The implied total is 6, 38% chance at winning. So the ownership's going to be low. So if you're going to go with any line, I would probably go Malkin, and you're going to get them probably below 10%. I think Letang's probably one of the best pay-up options on D tonight, just because he plays a lot of minutes, he shoots, he blocks. And then Brian Dumoulin's also solid. He's cheap salary. He plays top pairing with Letang. He does have that upside with the minutes, like I talked about before. He should see over 20 minutes a night, I'm assuming tonight. And then Tristan Jarry, I mean, if you're taking Pittsburgh, I would probably try and shy away from Jarry a little bit. The 38% win chance isn't high enough for me to get excited about, but his price tag is a little lower, so he gives you some flexibility to pay up for other players in your lineups. But in terms of Pittsburgh right now, I think they're not that strong of a stack. The value is not really there for me. But I do think their ownership is going to be relatively low given the upside, especially on the second line. So if you are taking Pittsburgh, I would probably take the second line. And it's just kind of an ownership play at that point. So if you're doing a cash lineup, I wouldn't look Pittsburgh too. But if you're doing mass multi-enter, I would probably at least try and mix some Penguins in there just because you're going to get them at relatively low ownership. But it is a hard matchup. What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely agree with what you said. If I'm taking a Pittsburgh line tonight, I'm taking line 2. I just can't, like, as good as Gensel and Crosby are, they're going to see the Couturier line, and that's all that I'm really worried about. This is one of the games that I'm like kind of teetering on, even fading at this point. I just think it's going to be very close. It's hard to take a goalie here because, like I said, I think it's going to be a pretty low event game compared to some of the other ones on the slate. But again, like you said, like it's going to be low ownership. So I feel like if I'm going anywhere on Pittsburgh tonight, it's going to be line 2. Letang is always a solid D option, plays a lot of minutes. It's going to continue like that. He's going to see power play one time. You can't ever really go wrong with a Malkin or Crosby line, but I just every time we see that Couturier matchup, it's always just like completely canceling out the other line.
Yeah. Sick defender. All right, so we'll move on here. So we'll go to the Leafs Canadiens game, the game that everyone should be excited for tonight. This is going to be a shootout. So we'll start with over at the Leafs. So we just got a note in chat that Wayne Simmons is playing first power play, so is Joe Thornton. So now we have Thornton, Matthews, and Marner all in first line power play. They're all correlated. I'm not sure how much Jumbo is going to play. I know Keefe, when they're down, they like to roll the lines and just put Tavares on the first line or move Willie up. So that's my only concern with Thornton tonight. But the fact that he is seen power play one time does kind of add some justification to why you should add him to that full stack. So I don't think you can go wrong with taking Toronto 1. Same thing with Toronto 2. You can't really go wrong. I think there's just too much upside there. Tavares has a high shot total. If Keefe's running both power play lines, I mean, they have the power play 2 correlation with Nylander and Tavares, so that's also good. Third line, I'm probably shying away from. They are a little bit more expensive than I want them to be. It's going to be hard for me to pay up $12,000 for a third line that's only going to play about 12 to 14 minutes. And then for defense, Morgan Riley's one of the top plays tonight. I think he's going to run that Leafs offense not only today but for the rest of the season. He's going to quarterback that top power play unit. The puck's going to always go onto his stick, and then either to Matthews for the shot or Marner for a backdoor. They really like using Riley as like that main option on the power play, so you can't really go wrong with him there. Jake Muzzin's a little bit too expensive for my liking. It's just hard for me to take a defense that's $5K and he's not in the first power play. But he will be low owned and his projection's pretty solid. For Brody, he's just way too priced up. 4,800 is kind of a mistake in my opinion. He just doesn't do enough offensively to get me excited. And then Hull's not a bad punt defenseman. He should see over 20 minutes a night, but again, that's not someone. There's better options on the slate than Hull. And then lastly, Freddie Anderson. Leafs have a 53% chance of winning, so it's not too high, but I know Montreal is one of the highest shot total teams on the slate, and that should only benefit Freddie. Even if he lets 2 or 3 goals in tonight, I still think he'll get the 30 saves or 35 save bonus. But yeah, line 1 looks solid. Power play 1 correlation. Jumbo Joe brings the price down. I think Thornton's ownership is going to be lower than Matthews and Marner, which is super beneficial if you're full line stacking. And it definitely doesn't hurt to put Riley in your Leaf stacks.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And shout out to I forget who mentioned it. It was
Jordan.
Jordan in the chat.
He's our insider.
Good, good take on that. That definitely, like I said, kind of puts me a little bit above line 2, because typically like both Toronto lines can score, and then you obviously wanted to. I think Matthews' ownership is going to be high, but like you said, if nobody's going to really take Joe Thornton on that top line, and myself as a big Leafs fan, the fact that I didn't know Joe was on the first power play unit with Wayne Simmons, that's another big insider play. Really like Morgan Riley as well. I think him playing with TJ Brody this year is going to open up the opportunity for him to be a little bit more offensive. So he's going to probably have a little bit more production-wise. Like you said, I don't really like Muzzin's price. It's a little too expensive. Hall, like you said, there's other better D on the slate for that price. And TJ Brody, again, he's definitely overpriced, but the only thing that I could see maybe benefiting Brody in that situation is that he's getting power play too. But still, for 4,800, like you said, his peripherals aren't good enough to justify him. So I definitely agree there. But I really like Freddie Anderson as the goalie. He's going to see a lot of shots like he usually does. And yeah, hopefully he gets that save bonus for 8,100. I think that's a pretty fair price against I'll just say not as deep Canadiens team. And then the third line, I don't think you're going to get a lot of production out of them. Zach Hyman's price at 5,300 is extremely high. So a good play for the Leafs tonight, but it's definitely that top line for me of Thornton, Matthews, Marner.
Yep, I would say Matthews is probably my favorite line for the Leafs. His just hard to ignore his shot total, but Tavares and Nylander are they're not too pricey. So we'll move over to the Canadiens. So I really like Montreal tonight. I think they're one of the top plays on the slate given the value and their projections. The first line is one of the strongest lines in hockey. They have a ton of minutes together. Their expected goals for is super high. Brendan Gallagher's a really high shot. His shot production is extremely high, one of the highest we'll see tonight on the slate. So I think he gives you a solid floor. My biggest scare with the first line is they only play about 17 minutes per night, but I mean the production's there. They're on the power play. I think just the biggest issue with the power play is they haven't seen too much success, but I mean Toronto also hasn't seen too much success defensively in the past. So I think you can easily go to Canadiens 1. They shouldn't see too much ownership, especially with all the big names on the slate tonight. Montreal 2 is probably my favorite line on the slate. Everyone's just super underpriced. I don't think we'll see Josh Anderson at this 3K price tag at all. I know he had a down year last year, and a lot of people are going to be scared because of that, but he has a high shot total. He has goal upside. He's seen power play time. Nick Suzuki should mesh well perfectly with him. With Anderson grinding it out in the corners, there should be tons of open ice for him. Not too high on Jonathan Drouin, but I do really like him at this price tag. I think you can't really go wrong with taking Canadiens 2 tonight. They're probably one of the top lines on the slate. And then Canadiens 3 are also good. You got Toffoli there with the high shot total. I'm not sure the outlook for Kotkaniemi this season, but he should be fine. And then I don't mind Joel Armia. The projection's good. The price tag's good. But if you're going to pay down anywhere, I would definitely put Canadiens 2 as probably one of the top value lines on the slate tonight. For defense, they also have phenomenal D and great pricing on them. Shea Weber under 6K is really good. He gives you that shot or that goal upside, blocks and shots as well. He's guaranteed for over 24 minutes a night. Exact same thing with Jeff Petrie. I think Petrie has more offensive upside than Weber, and he still shoots a lot, plays a ton of minutes. Ben Sherratt is another D that's on the top pairing with Montreal. I really like him tonight. He blocks a ton. He plays a lot of minutes. He shoots. And then Joel Edmondson, they just acquired him from the Hurricanes. He was one of the most valuable D last year in DraftKings, and he's still priced down at 3,100, which is pretty crazy. He's a guy that loves to shoot the puck. So every time a shot goes in net, there's an opportunity for him to score. I think Edmondson's a solid D at that price tag tonight. Probably one of the best value D. If you're looking for someone under 3,200 tonight, I think Edmondson's your go-to guy. And then Carey, Montreal should get... They're going to let in some goals tonight, and that's my only scare with Carey. But Toronto loves to shoot the puck a lot. I think the Canadiens are pretty defensive sound. So if you're going to take the Deneau line or the Suzuki line, it doesn't hurt to pair Carey with them. I would love to get a little power play check Clarky, if you can look that up quickly to see who's playing where.
I was just gonna mention when you threw it over to me there. So they have their power play, at least what it is right now on left wing lock, is it's really bizarre. It's the first is Drouin, Suzuki, Toffoli. So you don't get a lot of correlation there unless you're taking line 2, having Suzuki, Drouin. And then Weber and Petrie are both on the back end for PP1.
Interesting.
And then PP2 is Kotkaniemi, Tatar, Anderson, Gallagher, and then Alex Romanov, I believe, who's the new guy in Montreal, who I've been hearing a lot of good things about, is quarterbacking that second power play unit, which, like, looking at it to me, I think has a little bit more upside, especially with like Gallagher, Anderson, Kotkaniemi on that line. They saw Kotkaniemi started to kind of hit the potential that he was valued at by Canadiens fans at the end of last year. He started playing a lot better in terms of just production wise. So I think if I'm taking a Canadiens line tonight, it's probably line 2. I think Suzuki Anderson is a great duo. Like you said, the price on that line is just fantastic. You can fill that. You can use that line as a filler line with a lot of bigger lines. Line 3 is also kind of sneaky because Tyler Toffoli again had a great year last year. Kotkaniemi is just starting to hit his form as well. Not too sure about Joel Armia or what his output is, but and then I feel like that first line is going to get matched against the Matthews line as it should, just because they like to match Deneau against the other team's top line because he's one of the better defensive forwards in the league. I like the Weber play for under 6K. He shoots the puck a lot, and if he's on that first line power play, I think Petrie's price is really good as well. Joel Edmondson is actually my second favorite punt defenseman tonight. I'll get to my first a little bit later in the slate, but I do like the Canadiens a lot just because I think
the price,
the biggest thing is the price for me. Absolutely. They have good expected goals for as well. So I think Canadiens are a safe bet. If I'm taking one line over the other, it's probably line 2, just again for that power play correlation.
All right, sounds good. So if you're going Canadiens, line 2, line 1, both good. And they have a great option on D. All of them. Toronto's going to shoot a lot tonight. All right, so move on to the big question mark game for tonight, the Blackhawks and the Lightning. So for the Blackhawks, I'm just going to bring up the first line. I think the first line, the Blackhawks, is going to be super under-owned tonight. I think everyone's going to be off of them just because of the high implied total that's going a little bit towards the Lightning side. But this first line is going to have all power play 1 correlation. They've played together before and had a ton of success. 3.43 expected goals for, which is like way above league average. So my biggest take on this line is they're very cheap and they mesh well with almost every line you pair them with. You can pair them with any line and you're going to get 18 plus minutes from each player and power play 1 correlation. So I think the Blackhawks are a great play just because of their ownership is going to be super low. You got Patty Kane there, who is one of the highest shot total players on the slate tonight. We do have some high shot total players with McKinnon and Matthews being there, but Kane's definitely way too undervalued. He should be over 8K on almost every night. But I think the Blackhawks are going to be really strong tonight. Blackhawks won, sorry. They're going to be a good play. Line 2, I wouldn't even look at. I mean, Kubalik has power play 1 correlation, so if you want to do a power play stack, I think it's fine to put him there with Kane, Strome, DeBrincat, or to mix it up just to be different in your contests. For defense, I would only take Duncan Keith if you're going with the Blackhawks first line, just because he has that power play correlation and top line correlation. And then Connor Murphy's a good low-priced defenseman that gives you tons of blocks upside for tonight. And then Malcolm Subban, I mean, you can take him as a punt play. He's not going to get any ownership, but it's going to be a really, really hard matchup for him tonight.
Yeah, just to go off of what Mike said with the power play correlation, the first power play unit is actually DeBrincat, Strome, Kane, and then they have Andrew Shaw on with Adam Boqvist as PP1.
Boqvist is PP1?
I think Boqvist is a good punt play for 2,700 if you just need to like fill salary. Outside of that, I probably wouldn't look at any of the Chicago D. Maybe outside of Duncan Keith, just because his price is a little lower than what he usually was last year. But I agree with what Mike said. I think line one is definitely the play. If you're taking any line on Chicago, it's got to be line one. The thing I don't like about line one is that I think that they're going to just there isn't going to be enough. They're going to see the hard matchup is what I'm worried about. And Kane, Strome, DeBrincat are not good defensively. As you can see, their expected goals against is over 3, which to me that kind of just says it all. Like you're looking at that line and you're like, okay, Dylan Strome is really the only responsible defensive one, if anything, on that line. So to me, it's kind of a scary pick in the sense that they're gonna get a lot of minutes. Patrick Kane has proven time and time again that he's able to produce it no matter who he's matched up against. But to me, like if Tampa decides to match the Cirelli line against that line, the biggest difference from last year compared to this year is that they split and they had Jonathan Taves and Dominic Kubalik had like 30 or something goals last year. So they were able to kind of run both those two lines. But now I look at Chicago and I see a one-line team, and that line's going to get all the attention in terms of matchups. So you're going to see Hedman matched against that line as well, which I think they're going to take a slight dip in production. But like you said, they're going to be very underowned, and Patrick Kane and Alex DeBrincat are more than capable of putting up points and shots. So if you want to kind of take a contrarian play, I think that's a good take for the Blackhawks. And I'm not touching Malcolm Subban with a 10-foot pole tonight. So.
Love that. All right. So Daily Faceoff has Keith power play 1 right now, but if we see if we see Boquist on the first power play, that's gonna be solid. All right.
Yeah, we'll have to watch that for
definitely.
sure.
Yeah.
Again, like a lot of this isn't set in stone yet, just because it's opening night and teams are just now finishing up their morning skates or whatever. So we'll have to keep a close eye on it. And remember, guys, lock is at 5:30 tonight, not 7, just because of that one early game. So make sure you get your lineups in before that.
For sure. All right, so we'll jump over to the Lightning game. I do like the first line. They're probably going to be one of my highest owned lines tonight. I think just they're going to get a ton of ownership on the slate, and they're definitely priced accordingly. I think the Lightning should absolutely destroy the Blackhawks tonight. It's going to be pretty crazy, but they're priced accordingly, so that will probably drive the ownership down more than we think. There are a lot of big names on the slate, like McDavid, McKinnon, Matthews, so I think the ownership will be fair enough for you to play. And then the second line's actually really cheap now that we see Matthew Joseph there. And like Chris mentioned, like if the Cirelli line's matched against the Kane line, they're terrible defensively. So the Cirelli line should have it in their end for a good amount of time. And I also think the third line is great value. They're cheap. The Blake Coleman's a really high shot production player. They were really good in playoffs. I think they're going to play more minutes than we expect, about 14 to 16. So that's pretty healthy for a third line. And they're relatively cheap. So definitely someone you can pair with one of the more expensive lines. And then on defense, can't really go wrong with Victor Hedman, especially with this high implied total. He should be part of a lot of the production tonight. And then the favorite punt defenseman for tonight, Ryan McDonough, 3,200 salary, plays about 22 minutes a night, good peripherals, good point upside. So I think McDonough has his projection for our projection for him is relatively high, but I think it's solid given the implied total tonight against the Blackhawks. He should see a lot of opportunity to put up points. And then Vasilevsky again. You can't really go wrong picking him in a matchup where he has. Our numbers are wrong here, but he has a 64.7% chance of winning tonight. So I think you can't really go wrong with Vasilevsky. The Lightning are going to be one of the best plays tonight, but they're going to have a lot of ownership and they're expensive.
Yeah, I think Tampa 1 is going to be chalk tonight, but it's going to be good chalk, right? Like that Palat's a little bit priced up there, but Braden Point, Steven Stamkos are I wouldn't be surprised if they have like a 3 to 4 point night. Because like I said, I think line 2 is going to see a lot of that top Blackhawks line. Line 3 is also a really cheap play here. Yanni Gourde, Blake Coleman, Goudreau, Mike mentioned they were really solid in the playoffs. I think they're also them and line 2 are going to be closer in terms of minutes, I think, than most people think. So and even if they match up against either of the second or third line, I think both those Tampa lines are just going to roll over them. And then in terms of D, like Victor Hedman is the highest priced D on the slate, but I think that's well deserved in a just complete mismatch of Tampa versus Chicago. And then yeah, Ryan McDonough, a lot of good value. We have his projection pretty high, so again, like that's a really good filler D, as well as I like him and Edmondson. But still not my favorite punt
We're not
D on
there
the
yet.
slate. We'll get to that one next. But I'm playing Tampa 1 tonight. I'm playing Tampa 2. I'll have a little bit of Tampa 3, but I just like Tampa 2 a little bit more over 3, just because Killorn gets a little bit of PP one time, and Joseph's price brings that line down a little bit. But Tampa's chalk tonight, and as it should be.
Good chalk.
Good chalk. And Vasilevsky's like he should get the win, obviously. The highest price goalie on the slate, so
For sure. All right, let's move on. So we'll hop over to the Vancouver Canucks. The biggest thing I want to talk about here is that JT Miller is out, so we don't have any confirmation on who's filling in, but from what I've seen, Jake Virtanen is playing on the first line tonight, so he makes the line a bit cheaper, but I mean, I do like having JT Miller there. But the top line for the Canucks are super cheap. They're going to play a lot. They're going to play on the power play. So I do like the Canucks won a fair bit. I think their ownership's going to be relatively low. Line 2 is also really good, especially with Nils Höglander there. He's cheap. They currently have him on power play 1 tonight, which I don't know if that's going to actually follow through. But the second line's really good. They should be matching up against the McDavid line, who's proven time and time again that they're pretty weak defensively. So I think Horvat's going to have a fun night. It's going to be really offensive for the Horvat-McDavid line clashing, so I do like them. Line 3, I'm not looking at at all. They're not a bad punt play, but I wouldn't take them. And then for defense, if you're taking the top line in the Canucks, definitely take Quinn Hughes with them. The power play 1 correlation. If Besser and Pettersson score a lot tonight, Hughes should have a ton of correlation with that. Not too high on Alex Edler. We have his projection pretty high, but he's just someone that I think his minutes are going to begin to go down and down. Oh, there's the punt defenseman. Now I see it. And Tyler Myers is solid, plays over 20 minutes a night, gets the blocks. His salary's cheap, so he's a solid, cheap D-man to fit in your lineups. And then, I'm not going to spoil it, but I'll let Clarky bring up the final punt defenseman on this list for the Canucks tonight with the crazy 4.83 projection. And hockey, I see you talking about Demko or Holtby. I haven't seen anything about that yet. I'm assuming it's going to be Demko. If you want to follow us on Twitter, the Twitter is in the overlay here, right under my face. Toss a follow on the Twitter account, and we'll keep you guys updated on the starting goalies for tonight.
Yeah, we'll start right with Travis Hamonic. I think number 1, he's my biggest punt play tonight because he's min price. Number 2, he's playing first pair with Quinn Hughes, so he's going to see a lot of ice time. And then on top of that, he just has great peripherals. I think you can't really get a better punt defenseman, especially on a slate like going up against the Oilers. The Canucks are going to see a lot of shots, so his blocks are definitely going to be up there. And he does shoot the puck quite a bit as well. But he's my favorite punty on the slate tonight. And just again, we think it's Virtanen on the first line. If Höglander moves up to the first line, I think he's probably one of the best value plays on the slate as well at 2,900. He's just like a young, talented Swedish forward that just has a lot of upside. And playing with Pettersson and Besser, I think that's gonna bring the line down in terms of price even more. But I like line 2 as well. Again, if you play line 2, you get Horvat, Höglander on first PP. At least that's what it is right now. And then obviously you can't go wrong with Pettersson, Besser, Virtanen. I think this game is also going to be very high scoring. And then, like I said, if you're doing a power play stack, always make sure you have Quinn Hughes there. Even at 5,100, I'd still, just based off like his production last year, I'd still consider playing him that price even without the PP one time, which he's gonna get. But yeah, like you said, Nate Schmidt, Tyler Myers, Alex Edler, they're all pretty solid for their price. I really like Myers' price at 3,300 there. I'm pretty sure he was up in like 4,500 range as of last year, but If Demko's starting, his price is very good. I
Yep.
think I take him, and I'm not worried if Edmonton scores a couple goals on him. I think he's going to see a lot of shots, and he's the cheapest goalie on the slate, as tied with Malcolm Subban for 6,900. But
No one's touching
uh,
Subban.
yeah, exactly. I think Demko showed last year in the playoffs that he can be a number one guy, but it's going to come down to how comfortable the Canucks feel with playing him this year. So that's definitely something we need to watch. And like Mike said, make sure you're following the Twitter, and Mike does a really good job, as well as our entire team does a really good job of updating you guys in terms of what players are playing tonight, what goalies are starting right as the lock comes in at 5:30. So the scary thing is that we may not get the information on Demko or Holtby until later at like 6:30 even. So
Keep an eye out.
you just kind of, yeah, you just have to kind of keep an eye out and do the best at what you can, because the slate locks at 5:30, you can't really do much about it if you get one of the other goalies. So I'd just be careful about that. But yeah, Travis Hamonic,
Travis Hamonic.
2,500.
Don't forget Travis Hamonic tonight.
Can't go wrong.
So for the Oilers game, obviously I like the McDavid line, the correlation with Nuge on the power play. Nuge is
that number's wrong, right? The expected goals for
7.73.
Yeah,
it's wrong. It's wrong.
Okay, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, the first line's really good. Their pay up line, you can't really go wrong taking McDavid. I think line 2 is also good. We see Yamamoto's on the first power play now, so he does have that power play correlation with Draisaitl. I think something you can do for the Oilers tonight to kind of make your lineups a little bit different than other people is to make power play lines with the Oilers. So going like McDavid, Nuge, Draisaitl, or McDavid, Draisaitl, Yamamoto, something like that. So I do think that if you want to play the Oilers tonight and get different, I think you can easily do some power play stacks. And then Tyson Barrie's probably one of the top plays tonight. He's going to have a ton of ownership. Power play 1 on the Edmonton power play that scored 30% of the time last year. He had a high shot total when he was in Colorado, and we're kind of hoping he goes back to that same form. So I think Barrie's a solid play tonight. Darnell Nurse is also a good play at his price. He should see a lot more minutes with Clefbaum out, and he's a really good shot and block guy. And then Ethan Bear at 3,300 is also extremely cheap given the upside. To play more minutes, he should see first pairing as well, where he'll be giving the puck to McDavid a lot. And just to touch on that Edler projection, we're actually going to lower it quite a bit. We just have it over the last 2 years, and then some variables also added into it, but don't look too much on that 16.19. And so Mikko Koskinen, I think he's fine. If you're taking the Oilers, you just pair Koskinen with them. 58% chance at winning is pretty good. The Canucks will take their shots. But I mean, at that price tag, there is better goalies to go with, but Koskinen's not a bad play. He shouldn't get too much ownership because of the implied total.
Yeah, Mike is giving away all my secrets already. I think if there's one group that you're going to power play stack tonight, it should be the Oilers, especially if the Leafs power play is split 1 and 2. McDavid, Draisaitl are just absolutely bonkers on opening night as well. So I really like taking either of those lines. I think with that Tampa matchup against Chicago, that's going to get most of the chalk, which will leave McDavid, Draisaitl slightly under-owned. I still think they're going to be up there in terms of 2 of the top forwards. But like Mike said, if you're going to power play stack, make sure you have Tyson Barrie in there. I think he's at a great price for 4,400 playing PP1. I think that all he has to do is pass the puck to either McDavid or Draisaitl, and he's getting assists right, left, and center. So I think Barrie's a good spot. Nurse is great peripheral wise. Like Mike said, he's going to get a lot of minutes now that the Clef is out. Same thing with Ethan Bear. I think we saw his price a lot higher last year towards the end of the season. But for 3,300, again, that's a guy that's also going to have a bigger role this year just because of the Clefbaum injury. And I don't think Tyson Barrie is too sound defensively to whereas they would have him on the first D pair, like matching against the other team's top line. But I think the Oilers are a great spot tonight as well. If I had to pick one of the two lines, I think I'm picking the Draisaitl line just because that line's a little bit cheaper in terms
Mm-hmm.
of price. And Kyler, like Mike said, Kyler Yamamoto getting that first line power play is definitely just adding more to that value of 3,900. Puljujärvi is also kind of a sneaky player to watch. I probably wouldn't take any of the third line tonight, just because I think Vancouver's third line is very good. But he's a player to kind of keep your eye on as we kind of progress into the season. If he gets moved up, I wouldn't be surprised if Zach Kassian gets bumped off of that first line if we see Puljujärvi starting to kind of heat up. Yeah, I to me that's a no-brainer, but I don't know what the Edmonton staff wants to do with that. But I think, like I said, Edmonton's good play. I think this is going to be also a high-scoring game. So Koskinen for 7,900. Again, I would give the edge to Edmonton here, but I wouldn't be surprised if Vancouver gets a couple goals, especially like on the power play or something. I feel like with that JT Miller loss, it kind of puts Edmonton over the top for me here. But still a pretty good price for 7,900. Like Mike said, he's going to see shots. But to me, if Demko starts and he's 6,900, then I think that's just a better play, regardless of the Oilers scoring a bunch of goals.
All right. Tyson Barrie. Take him with
Tyson
your
Barrie.
Oilers stocks. All right. So now to the Blues and Avalanche, one of the more exciting games for real life hockey, but not too exciting for DraftKings, I would say. So we'll start with the Blues. I think the Blues they're priced up pretty high. Probably not going to have too much of them. It's just kind of hard to take Perron and O'Reilly, who both don't have really high shot totals at that price tag. So I'm not going to have too much of the Blues 1. I think Blues 2 is one of the best value stacks with Montreal 2. They kind of messed up with Mike Hoffman's pricing. He's 3,200. He scored 30 goals in a couple of years in a row. So Hoffman's probably the best cash lineup play tonight. If you're not doing any correlation or you're doing one-off plays, you can't really go wrong with Mike Hoffman. So I like line 2 on the Blues. And then for the defense, Torrey Krug's good. I think I would take Krug if you're doing power play stacks. And Colton Parayko is solid block, solid shots. And then if you're looking for a punt D, Falk and Dunn are also really good. I think Bennington's price tag is good, but I'm not going to be too high on Bennington just because Avalanche has so much opportunity to score tonight.
So I'm actually shocked that Braden Shen is on the first line. Well, I shouldn't say shocked. I'm just surprised because normally he plays center. But if anything, that just tells you how good Robert Thomas has made an impression in camp. And I think at 3K, playing on a line with two really high production players like Schwartz and Hoffman, who are going to shoot the puck a lot, I think that's a really good value play. Even if you want to take that guy as, say, like a one-off, I think he's one of your better options tonight. So I think if I'm going with a line here, it's going to be line 2, as well as I see line 1. Who's the home team here? Do we know?
Avalanche, but I don't know if home matters anymore.
Right. So I'm just thinking if Kadri's line gets the matchup against the O'Reilly line, I just think that's just gives more justification for taking line 2 St. Louis, as well as line 3 St. Louis is kind of sneaky in the sense that their expected goals for is fairly high and at a really cheap price. So if you're doing mass multi-entry, you definitely want to try and fit maybe I'd say two stacks of those in your lineup just to be contrarian. I think like it gives you a good value play. They're going to be so under-owned, it's ridiculous. And if they get a good matchup against line 3 Colorado, I think that's a good play as well. Defense, like Mike said, Krug, PP1. Parayko actually, I learned today, shoots a lot more than I thought. So he's also going to be like the number 1 guy now that Petro's gone. I think Krug isn't that solid defensively as Petro, but I think Parayko's going to be their guy that needs to kind of step up in order to kind of fill that gap. I actually really like Binnington's price at 7,200. I think that a lot of people are in question about St. Louis and with Petro gone, how that's going to impact them defensively. But at the same time, in Colorado, you have a high shot volume team, especially with McKinnon, who just will literally shoot the puck from anywhere, and it's a scoring opportunity. But I like Binnington for the price in itself. If you're just looking for salary, I think he's a solid option. St. Louis may not get the win necessarily, but I think this game's going to be close. I don't think it's going to be very high scoring unless Nathan McKinnon enters God mode again, which is more than possible. But for the price, I like Binnington as well.
All right. So we'll hop over to the Avs side. I think McKinnon's the best raw play tonight. If you're looking at an individual point standpoint, McKinnon's probably the number one play. So hard to ignore shot upside, and he's always on the ice for goals. So you can't go wrong with the Avalanche one tonight. They are priced up, but I mean you get Burakovsky for 4,800, so he has a ton of opportunity to put up points tonight. So line 2, I actually think is a lot better than it seems. I know they have Landeskog down the second line. We don't know. Maybe mid-game we'll see him move up to the first line. I know Colorado likes to do that, but I think the second line's really good. Kadri's power play 1, Landeskog's power play 1. Saad is a really good player that kind of got overlooked and overshadowed on a kind of pretty bad Chicago team. So there's definitely a lot of upside there from the second line. They project really well too. For the defense side of things, I think if you're taking the power play for the Avalanche, take Makar. He is priced a little high, and I think he'll hit value if he scores tonight. He doesn't really shoot or block too much, but I do think he does take a step up in his minutes, so I might be undervaluing him. I know you're going to have a different take on Makar tonight, but Devin Taves, he's a little too pricey for me. I just don't have enough sample size with him not on the Islanders team, because the Islanders play like a defense first kind of structure, so I don't know how Taves is going to be on an offensive first structure. For Sam Girard, probably not taking him tonight. And then I'm not too high on Ryan Graves. I think there's better options at that price tag. And Philip Grubauer, solid goalie, good chance to win tonight. But I think at that price tag, you're better off going someone else. But I don't think it hurts to pair Grubauer with your Avalanche stacks. Also, if you guys are enjoying the stream so far, please leave a like. It helps us with the algorithm and just helps us keep going to do these every day. So if you're enjoying the content so far, drop a like. Go ahead. I'll let you talk.
Yeah, I think Mike kind of summed it all up and put a nice bow on it. I think McKinnon is one of the best spots tonight, just in terms of just overall production. Burakovsky kind of brings his line price up a little bit. I think 4,800 is a little pricey for him, but you're getting Rantanen with that stack as well. And line 2 is also a good value play. I think Landeskog's price a little bit higher up there, but like Mike said, he gets power play 1 time as well as Kadri does. And then because Saad's price is like a little bit lower, kind of evens it out a little bit. They have good expected goals, obviously, with the season that Kadri had last year. I think that's also a really good play. If you're interested in being contrarian, I think line 3 gives you a little bit, but they're going up against that Blues third line there. The entire third line of Colorado has all second power play correlation, so that's something that gives them a little bit more of an upside if you're looking at just like a value ownership play. Cale Makar at 6K, I compare him kind of to Weber. I think he doesn't, like Mike said, he doesn't have the peripherals that, say, Shea Weber would. But I think he's going to get a lot of ice time. He's going to be a threat on the power play, as he always is. He's just kind of inconsistent, like I said, in terms of his peripherals. Some games he shoots like 5 or 7 shots. The other games he has like 1 or 2. So, but for that price tag, I think it's deserving. I think he's one of the more dangerous defensemen on this slate. I don't think he's paired with Devin Taves, so I think Taves gives him a little bit more leeway to just kind of be more offensive, just because of the game that Taves plays. But I'll be interested to see how that works. Sam Girard is PP2 quarterbacking that with a price tag of 3,400. It's not a bad price, but I don't think I would touch Girard as well. And then Grubauer for 8,200, I think that's just saying that the Avalanche is a really good team and they're favored to win this game. Yeah, I think this game's going to be kind of low in terms of production compared to some of the other games tonight. But I think the Grubauer, it's a safe pick for that price.
All right. So 21 Matt, just to answer your question, we are going to start a Patreon relatively soon, when the sheet will be available on there. But as of now, it's just a private sheet that we've been working on the last couple of years now. So for the Canadiens, I just think if you're inquiring about that, the second line, first line for Montreal is really good tonight. So yeah, overall, it should be a pretty exciting night. It's finally here. We finally got some hockey. We finally get to bet some money tonight, and I mean, hopefully we win. That's the plan. Win that 50K tonight. Anyway, so thanks everyone for tuning in. This was our first ever DFS strategy show. We're going to be trying to stream almost every day for this. If you have any questions about your fantasy team for tonight or looking for any updates, follow us on Twitter at fantasy_puck. And I think you can head over to our website as well. We have a discussion board if you want to talk about anything that's going on in the NHL tonight, or talk about your team and who you should start. And if any of you guys are Call of Duty watchers or enjoy playing Call of Duty, Warzone, Cold War, any of that, head over to Aimless Charlton on Twitch. He streams almost every night at 8 p.m. I know it'll cut into your NHL watching time, but definitely bring some support over to his channel. He has some really good content, some really good advice for COD players. So, yeah, anyways, thanks everyone for tuning in. This was our first one, so any feedback's appreciated. Drop a like and subscribe if you're interested in us doing this more. So thanks a lot, everyone, and we'll see you all later.